like to start talking about the difference between stress and anxiety, if it even makes sense to start there. Is that something that you think about?
Well, I think it's almost, if I were to create the distinction, it's sort of more along the lines of sort of like, stress is something that, for starters, stress can be healthy. A certain amount of stress is necessary to get you up and motivate you to go to work so that you can make a paycheck and keep your boss happy so that you don't lose your job and you can feed your family. That's called eustress. And it's positive stress. It gets you up and it gets you going. And it keeps you motivated. But then there's stress that starts to overwhelm. And it's typically, related to when eustress becomes too much in a way. It's almost like, how would I put it? You've got 1, 2, 3 deadlines coming up, and they're all on the same day, and you got to get 3 things turned in, and you have 3 days left, and let's just say you have been working diligently, but there's still so much to do, and once you start to feel overwhelmed that you lose the ability to actually sort of keep yourself going and keep yourself able to keep on task, you get so focused on the stress itself that it takes over. That's when it becomes unhealthy stress. And that's when it's important to take a step back. I can just remember times when I was talking with housemates back when I was getting my degree, and just a person is just sort of like, I've got this due at 1 o'clock and I got this due at 4 o'clock, and then I've got to get this turned in, and it's related to a co-op, and it's got to be turned in the first thing on Monday, and oh my God, I don't know what to do. I feel so lost. I can't do any of it. And that's too much stress. That's going beyond eustress. And at that point, it's really about, okay, stop and ask yourself, what time is it now? What do I need to do now in order to take care of thing 1? And what do I need to do now to make sure that thing 2 is going to be done on time as well after thing 1 is done? And sometimes it takes a little bit of, sometimes it takes someone to coach you through that. If you have been stewing in it for so long, it becomes so overwhelming you can't think your way out of it.
So stress, it seems to me, is something that's based on something that's going on in your life right now that is stressing you out. And is anxiety more like maybe a longer term feeling that isn't always attributable to a specific issue? Sometimes you're feeling anxious about your life in general. I don't know.
Anxiety can be tied to stress. But anxiety has many different causes. Some people experience generalized anxiety, and that means they start to develop panic symptoms. But there's no attributable cause. It just happens. And for whatever reason, they can be going about their business, and the next thing they know, they're getting heart palpitations, shortness of breath, the feeling of jello, wobbliness in their legs, and this sense of weird, almost like weird energy flowing through their arms, their palms sweat, all of it. But there's no reason whatsoever. It's just happening, and it can't be attributed to anything. And I do want to point out that although this is a description of symptomology, you would always need a psychiatrist to be able to make a diagnosis of any anxiety disorder. But going back to what I was saying, there does not seem to be a cause. It's just happening. That's general. Then there can be something very situation specific, like a fear of crossing bridges or a fear of heights. And that's typically called a phobia. Whereas you don't tend to experience anxiety except in the situation where you are, that frightens you so much. And then you might start to get the symptoms, let's just say, I used to have height fear. So I would when I found myself in a very high place, suddenly I would almost feel like I was falling when I saw how high up I was. Yeah. And on top of that, I get the heart pounding and the panic symptoms. And often what's required to help get you out of that is to use something called desensitization. And desensitization is a process done in a counseling or psychotherapy session where, for starters, you take the person to a relaxing, sort of relax them and sort of get them to close their eyes and go to a relaxing place, a place where they feel comfortable. And then once they feel good and relaxed, with their permission, in their minds take them to a situation where they experience that particular fear and get them to slowly but surely experience, for this my example, experience the sense of being up high. And try to stay with that sensation of anxiety until it starts to come down. And also, what's often recommended is to have the person actually go out and, when they're not in session, and try to expose themselves to that frightening situation. And, you know, be willing to, okay, if you're afraid of heights and it's more than anything higher than 4 stories, let's say, or 3 stories, let's say it's 3 stories, you start by trying to go up 4 stories and then look out a window or go out on a balcony, see how high you are. And once you feel comfortable with that, you increase it to 5 or 6, and you just slowly increase up the ante, so to speak, until a person feels comfortable, you know, being fairly high up. I've officially now been able to step out onto that clear glass plate at the CN Tower for a moment or two, but still, you know.
Yeah, that's great.